Good evening, everyone. Tonight is our February Lake George Board of Education meeting, delayed by one evening because of the snowstorm that we had yesterday. So a little bit different time and day, but we have everyone here except Mike Fish was not able to be here with us this evening. Otherwise, everyone is present. So thank you, everybody, for being flexible with our winter weather. Before we start with the rest of the meeting, I would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join us if you are able to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So next up on the agenda is the presentation with John Luthringer and Megan Cochard for Standards-Based Educator Evaluation and Professional Support System, also known as STEPS.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. So we're excited to be able to present to the board today all the work and progress that has been done over really since last year, really.
Yep.
On our STEPS plan. So we're excited to share this. And for those, this is our first presentation in the Laker Hub. So we've got a couple different screens. So just so there's one behind you, certainly for anybody sitting, and there's one right over here as well. So feel free to look in whatever direction works best for you as we kind of get into this a little bit. So you may recall, as we've talked a lot about, we have had for the last at least a dozen or more years, schools in New York State have been required under what's called Educational Law 3012D, which is Annual Professional Performance Review. That's the evaluation process that exists for both principals and teachers currently. The legislators last year, the year before, passed 3012E, which is a pretty sizable shift from what was formerly known as APPR and now is known as Standards-Based Educator Evaluation and Professional Support System, otherwise known as STEPS. As you know, in New York State in education, we love our acronyms. New York State STEPS is the path forward for school districts in regards to teacher and principal evaluation. The biggest shift, which you can see at the top of that, was really moving away from some of more what could have been viewed as punitive measures, where an accountability based on state test scores. That has been decoupled per the new law. And really the focus on STEPS is more about professional growth, professional development. There's still an evaluation process. There's a lot to that still that's guided by the law, but it's really more focused heavily on the growth of educators each and every year. So we're really excited about it because it does create this opportunity for us to have a more meaningful cycle for our teachers, and it's really been a collaborative process kind of shifting to the new law. So we're going to get into some of the details about that. As I mentioned before, the STEPS plan, as required by law, applies to teachers and principals. We do have evaluation processes in our district for all other staff members. Those will still exist through existing processes with their supervisors. The STEPS plan itself just does apply to teachers and principals. So as I mentioned here, we've had a series of action steps and goals dating back to last year where we've been working really collaboratively with LGEA leadership. So the Teacher Association leadership, we've been working collaboratively on that process going back to last year. Again, that plan focuses on really supporting professional growth of educators. So we've been working on, the state gives us a roadmap, a framework to work through. And that's the work that this smaller committee had done. And as we work really hard on that shared decision-making process, that back and forth. So we had opportunities to share, work with the administrative team. The association would bring things back to the larger group of teachers. We did reach consensus. We worked really hard and reached a framework of a plan. We presented that to all staff members in November. We got some additional feedback. Mm-hmm. There was actually some things that we said we need your help with, and put out surveys to the whole faculty and said, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we got more feedback, and then we were able to actually finalize that plan and submit it to New York State Education Department for approval. That happened in the winter. It was a really kind of a cumbersome process because we are one of the first schools really in New York State that has really worked towards this. We were told by the representatives from State Ed there was only about 26 districts roughly in New York State, and we were one of only 3 districts in our local BOCES of 31 component schools that are working on this. All other schools have until 2031 to actually get it done. And, you know, we like to lead from the front sometimes. So we're excited about this. So we did submit that. It has been fully approved by State Education Department. So now we're in this phase of really getting into some professional development. That's going to occur this spring, well, late winter, I should say, because we are going to spend part of our staff development day in March working on some of the components. And then really the plan begins in September. That's our ultimate goal. And that was that's the plan thus far.
So one of the benefits of this new plan is the state is giving a lot more local control to decision making. APPR was pretty rigid. There wasn't a lot of room for choice. So the district was able to design their observation systems and evaluation cycles and set our local expectations. One thing that was unique and new this time was that the foundation of this really lives in the New York State teaching standards for the teachers and the professional standards for educational leaders for our principals. So that did require a little bit of adjustment to ensure that everything was aligning with those standards. Another new twist to it was that STEPS plans can be differentiated for different groups of educators, and you'll see how that played out in our plan in just a few slides. But one thing that did stay the same is that our plans are subject to collective bargaining, which we've been working through with that group and all the necessary components to that. So these are those New York State teaching standards that we talked about. These standards aren't necessarily new, but they weren't the foundation of our APPR process. We used the Danielson framework for our observation rubrics, and we will still include those components, but they need to be aligned to these standards here.
So these are the standards for educational leaders, principals. They're called another acronym, PSELs, which are the professional standards for educational leaders. These exist, we use them, they're out there, they've been part of a lot of different school districts look at these as well, so you can kind of see the different standards here. It is a little bit different for our educational leaders as well, but these standards would apply to our principal process as well.
So one requirement is that there's multiple measures for measuring those standards that we just showed. And what is required is that there are observations for teachers or school visits for our principals, and there must be 2 or more in a cycle. So we'll talk about the cycles in a second. There also needs to be within a cycle 1 additional locally determined measure, and you can see there were several that were provided to us along with the option to create our own other measure as well. These are the decisions that were made for our teachers, and as you remember, I said that the process can be differentiated for different teaching groups, and you'll see that most evident here. You can see that for our probationary teachers, on an annual basis, they will complete an announced observation, an unannounced observation, and do goal-setting work. At the end of that year, they'll receive their overall rating score. For our tenured teachers, we're going to see the same measures, but that cycle that we talked about is actually a 4-year cycle. So they will, in 1 year, they'll do the announced observation. Another year, they would do goal setting. Another year, they would do their unannounced observation, and then they would do goal setting again. The reason we have goal setting in there twice is there was a lot of desire for this to be a 4-year cycle. You have to submit at least one standard being measured every year. So there needs to be a measure in every year of the cycle so that we can submit at least one standard score. So for the tenured teachers, we'll be sharing scores each of those years, and then at the end of the 4 years, they'll receive that overall rating score. This is just one version of what it could look like for the tenured teachers. We're going to actually break them, if you want to click to the next one, we're going to break them into 4 different groups, and each group might move through that process at a different pace. The reason we wanted to do this is it will help ease the load on our administrative staff doing those observations. Instead of observing every teacher every year, they'll observe a quarter of the teachers every year. Any questions about that? That was a lot of information.
Just curious, so it used to be that the announced observation and the unannounced observation were both done pertaining to very specific standards in the APPR process. Will it be similar in terms of?
Maybe the next slide.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, I think we're gonna get to that, Janine, because
Okay.
that part is also collectively bargained.
All
What
right.
specific standards you're looking for when you're doing those observations in the classroom.
Okay, thanks.
Marianne?
My questions are more basic because I don't understand the system, but is the goal setting related in some way to the observation? And if so, why would you wait a year? Why are they so far apart, I guess is my question.
Sure. So the goal setting can be related to outcomes of the observation. It's not required to be. Our probationary teachers will be creating their goals in coordination with their administrators. Our tenured teachers can coordinate but aren't required to. But the goal setting could be based on building or district initiative, a personal initiative, yeah.
So the principals are also subject to a cycle, but it's very, more, I would say, more simplistic. The requirements for each year would be what they call school visits, is required by the law. So an announced school visit, so I would work collaboratively with the principals and typically go to a staff meeting of some sort or an event of something. I like to call them walkabouts. We do a walkabout and we talk about goals and things of that nature and get a real feel for the school. There's also an unannounced school visit, again, coming at a time that is unannounced. And then there's a goal setting process as well. I'll say this, the goal setting process already exists in our current structures with that. It's something that I think as collective, as a district, feel very passionate about. Personal goal setting, aligning with district goals. And I want to also commend our 2 principals for piloting our new goal setting form that we're using this year ahead of cycle, so we can kind of get some additional feedback how that has went. They also receive an overall rating annually.
So the scoring will be similar but slightly different. We used to have ratings like highly effective, effective, developing. They will only be level 1, 2, 3, or 4. You can see some definitions that go along with that, but when they receive a score, it will just be the level with a number. And that will be, we have decided locally how we calculate those based on the rubrics that we're utilizing during the observation and the goal setting. So this is what was used, this is not the rubric, but previously we used Danielson framework, and there were we narrowed it down during COVID. We prioritized 23 elements, and that's what we're seeing on the screen now. So since COVID, we've been utilizing these elements and a rubric built off of them. With our new teacher rubric, we will hold on to these Danielson elements, but we have aligned them to the New York State standards because that's what we need to report a score on. So I think if you click one more time, you can just see an example of what this will look like. So the first column provides the full New York State standard. And then adjacent to that is the language from Danielson and the rubric we'll use to rate that specific element. And
Okay.
this as, go ahead, were you going to jump in there?
No, I was just going to comment that this looks like a lot, but it's something our teachers are very familiar with. You know, there's really what's like a domain, kind of that, if we go back to this slide for a second here, there's really 4 main areas, kind of that planning and preparation, getting to know your students, building lesson plans. What does the classroom environment look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? The instruction components, you know, questioning techniques, and then that professionalism, that responsibilities, that, you know, the reflection, the work that you're doing outside of your classroom. This is all very familiar to our teachers, and that was part of the work that we discussed in our committee, was trying to keep things that they're familiar with, but align it to the new requirements. So there is a little bit more of a shift with our principals. In regards to the shift to those P-cell standards, those professional standards. And New York State does not require a specific rubric to be used. That is locally determined. So in the old APPR, there was a set number of rubrics that had to be used. This time it's, you know, it can be district decided. So one thing that we did in our investigation and our work is that we found a rubric that correlates directly to those P-cell standards. It was actually developed through the Maryland State Department of Education. A number of schools are utilizing and looking at that, again, because it aligns directly to those standards, which is a requirement by law. This is just an example of one that we just kind of showed from the teacher perspective. This would be for Standard 1, mission, vision, and core values. And you can kind of see just, we're not going to go through them all, but just sort of how it flows from level 1 really up to level 4 of a highly effective school leader. So this is the type of rubric for all of those standards that we would use when we're looking at a school visit, an unannounced visit, and through the goal setting process.
So I have sort of mentioned this before. We talk about this as a cycle. So our probationary teachers have a 1-year cycle, and our tenured teachers have a 4-year cycle. There will be a 1 through 4 rating on each of the standards and that overall score of a 1 through 4 during a cycle. And one thing that is very important is to understand how the scores calculate to a level, and you can see here those score ranges as we average everything together, what would calculate or lead to each of the levels.
So I know we got a little bit in the weeds there, but we wanted to give you a flavor of kind of what the work has done and the work of how we're going to evaluate our teachers and principals. So this is where we're living next is, as I mentioned before, our entire plan, which is a very sizable document, has been approved by State Education Department, and we're really in that phase of kind of rolling that out now with professional development plan for March and later, you know, more throughout the summer and even into a little bit of the start of next year. And our plan will start in September. So we're excited about this opportunity. We feel strongly, and I think collectively, that it's a much more meaningful evaluation tool. And certainly we're looking forward to getting some feedback as we go through the process next year. Any questions?
I just have one question. I'm just curious if this new program impacts the scope or practices of the Professional Growth Committee. That's the continuing professional opportunities, right? Yeah. Does it connect any differently there? I'm just curious.
No, I don't. I think that's just kind of it's very separate. But I suppose if there are opportunities in the professional, in that for people to seek professional development or seek something that they're excited about or a goal that they've had, so they can use that as a vehicle to get some further growth, but it's not tied to the STEPS plan.
Goal setting definitely has teachers outlining sort of action steps that they would take, and so that's where it might connect. If a teacher outlines, professional development, that professional growth could serve as an opportunity to find that professional development.
Megan, that was one of my questions, was what does the goal setting, the every other year goal setting session look like? Who's it with? How does that work?
Yeah, so teachers will set their goal, and part of the goal is just a general statement, but it's meant to be a SMART goal, which we've talked about a lot, and that idea that they're talking about how it's relevant, they're talking about how it's actionable, and they're talking about how it can be measured. And so those will be completed by teachers by November 1st. We wanted to give them some time at the beginning of the year. And then principals will approve them by December 1st. And then there would be time for them to work on it. And then there's a teacher self-assessment reflection component where they reflect on what came out of that. Did they reach success, how it impacted them in their own professional growth, and how it impacted the students. And then the administrators will have an opportunity for reflection too, where they could recommend some additional steps for them. And then there's also a rubric that will help calculate the score that goes to the state.
Well, I thank you for being early adopters of this. It very much aligns when you talked about the professional growth, that this one's much more oriented towards supporting professional growth. And that's something that I feel like the district has done so well in recent years, really. That's, philosophically something that we've really worked hard on with not only new teachers, but, every single professional in the district. So thank you. I think that's great. And I love the shared decision-making pieces of it. And I realize, there's part of that's collectively bargained, which it should be, but it's way beyond that piece. You brought people in long before that piece of it. So I really appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions?
I just had a comment. Certainly school districts have complained about APPR for years. I've lived it for a while, but a lot of thought has gone into this plan, and I think it's really impressive. And I thank you very much for putting all that work into it. That's not an easy task, evaluating teachers and administrators, that's for sure. So I thank you very much for improving on something that needed improvement badly. Thank you.
So we, as you mentioned, collective bargaining, so we have a couple documents we're still working on, and then all that will come to the board for approval. We're hoping March, so that you'll see the entire plan. It's actually through the state ed portal, but we'll have all that like we've done with APPR. So we'll be recommending that to the board, hopefully in March.
Is one piece that's different between APPR and this one? APPR was a yearly observation. Is that
So
correct?
for,
Yes.
Okay.
for the probationary or non-tenured teachers, it will still be yearly.
Okay. So if you had a concern about a tenured teacher and there's an observation happening every other year, what is the ability for administrators to do observations outside of this collectively bargained STEPS program?
So that's a great question. So anytime, I would say that there's an ability for school districts to work on an improvement plan if there's something were to come up. And we're always in and out of classrooms. There is also, as through the goal setting process, there could be additional unannounced observations as part of that process. So I would say we actually have those as part of our plan. We have to identify those things, and we have to have what's called
It's not a tip
It's not
anymore,
a
but
teacher improvement plan. It's
a professional growth plan.
Thank you. So
Okay.
there are those components still built in to support teachers if there was areas of concern or areas of needed growth.
Nice. Which really dovetails in with that professional growth, because that's what we want, is to help everyone be elevated to their highest ability, because that serves our students, so, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you so much. So the next item on the agenda is the non-instructional budget presentation with John Luthringer. He'll be back up there, and Bonnie Hart, our business official.
Thank you. This is new for me. Okay, well, thank you. Welcome. I want to start by talking a little bit about the budget development overview, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty parts. The budget development overview is about finding a balance between the mandates, our obligations, our needs, and our wants and wishes. Throughout the process of the budgeting months, administration, stakeholders, we work collaboratively to align our needs, our wants, our wishes to our mission, vision, and values, while we're also maintaining fiscal responsibility. Traditionally, in the past, we would break the budget presentations into 3 parts, one each month, where this month we would focus on the non-instructional budget. Next month, we would focus on the instructional budget, and then in April, we would look at the undistributed and revenue components. This year, I'm going to blend in each month a little bit about revenue, because there's a lot of components to the revenue. And it gets pretty deep when we talk about the tax cap, along with the pilots, payments in lieu of taxes, which the district has had several of those in the past couple of years, and potentially anticipate more in how they impact the tax cap in particular. If I waited to April to do it, we'd be here a very long time, and your mind would probably explode. I've already preset audit and finance with this, so I thought I would break it up into several parts for the revenue. When we are budgeting, the entire time I'm looking at instructional components, non-instructional components, undistributed, but at the same time I'm looking at revenue. So it may seem like, oh, she doesn't do revenue until April. Well, you have to, at the same time, balance all of your expenses with your revenue. All school business administrators' goals are to maximize what we can control in revenue, minimize what we can control in expenses. Notice the keywords control, because there's a lot out of our control. And doing that, we could offset our uncontrollable cost. So with that, I'm going to look a little bit at the tax cap and do a little exercise with you. First, when we look at the tax cap formula, this is a very simplistic form of the tax cap formula, which is very long. Only math people like that. But what you do is you can't hear me? Oh, sorry. It might be me. You start with the prior year levy. No? I don't think this is working. I'll take mine back. Okay. So we're going to play musical microphones. So you start with your prior year levy, wherever you ended the year before, and you multiply it by a growth factor. Now that growth factor is something out of our control. The state provides that for us. And then you add the inflation outside of the district's control. The state provides that for us, and the state says it's the current inflation rate or 2%, whichever is less. So you can understand why a lot of people think the tax cap is always 2%. It's me? Okay. But then I'm going to move my little. Look, now I'm breaking this. This operator, right? Okay.
Gotcha.
I got a clicker here too, though. Is this better? No? Don't move. Speak straight. Like this? Oh, that's hard for me.
I know.
It didn't do it to them.
Well, because they didn't hold it. You want it lower?
Growing pains. Look, growing pains. Good? Is this better?
We'll see.
But it's only with me. Okay, so back to the tax cap formula. So the growth factor is out of our control. The state provides that. Inflation, out of our control. The state provides that. Pilots technically is out of our control. The district really doesn't have much say in pilots, but notice the minus there. Okay, that's taking out of our allowable tax cap. But then we get to add certain exclusions, and they are defined for us. Debt service is debt service. It's how much we have. So there's not much we can do with that. Capital expenditures is something I'll talk a bit about in detail next month. BOCES capital and rent is based on our BOCES, and bus purchases and van purchases is, I guess you could say, in our control, but you cannot band or bond those. It's when you pay cash for them. So in math, when we're taking something away, to offset that, we want to add something to have a net effect of 0. So what we can control in particular is more the capital expenditures, and we will really get into that next month. How do we do that? How do we make that minus of a pilot become a plus for the district? So the teacher in me is going to say, well, I'm going to use an inquiry method. Megan will like this, what they called in the classroom the wiser method. I wonder, how does staying at or below this standard 2% on the tax cap or less affect the district in years down the road? One thing you hear in my office a lot is, I think this calls for a spreadsheet. And business people, math people love doing spreadsheets. And once you have your data, then you synthesize it. Now, this is where we're going to do a little activity, I hope. Uh-oh, Matt. Okay. So here, above the black thick line is Lake George over the last 5 years in this upcoming budget season. What our actual tax levy was, what our allowable tax levy was, what the allowable percent was, and the allowable dollar amount. Then directly below that thick line, you can see where we have come, which has been historically very close or slightly below the allowable tax cap. To the right of the line is projection for next year. Again, there's a lot out of our control. We don't know what the state's growth factor will be. Assuming everything stays about the same, I can project pilots. I could project, I know our debt service. I could project within reason BOCES and what we may purchase. So assuming all of that stays the same, when we look at a allowable tax cap for this year does come at 366. And next year, if everything stays the same, would be at 3.06. So currently, if I look at this little spreadsheet here, Lake George has been staying at or slightly below the tax cap. So you can see what we are doing is maximizing our revenue that we could control. So let's say this year, we have not fully decided this yet, but the allowable amount is 3.66. Let's say you said, let's go at 3. What that does is for next year, if that 3.06 is the allowable, and it'll be within that, To end at the same result next year with the same ending tax levy, we would need a supermajority and go above the allowable tax cap to end at that same dollar amount. Now, we have been going to the tax cap. Let's say we have not, and we go to the tax cap because we get much less state aid than many other districts. So if we stayed at that 2% instead of the allowable, you could see if we went 2% this year, next year we would be $1.4 million. We would need to raise taxes by 6.27%, the tax levy. Notice it turns red when we go above the allowable. So if I go back to where we have been, and just play with this year, because I can't go back in time, I could only look ahead. Okay, 3.66 is where we are coming in allowable. The state has adjusted some of those figures. The growth factor increased this year. And let's say we went at 3%, we're still going to need a supermajority next year if we need that money. So from the business official standpoint, this is where I start saying, okay, what about 3.4? And notice I don't want the red. What if I went 3.6? We're good. So we're going to sit there and look at what is our final budget, the expenditures that people are requiring, a lot of our mandates, where does that come in? Look at what is the dollar impact on a taxpayer when we look at the allowable tax cap to where we're going to come in. And that is just a preset to what will come in future months in terms of the tax cap. But when I go back to the presentation, Matt, can you click me back there, or do I have to? So when I come back to my inquiry lesson, what ends up being is when you go below, significantly below, or below the allowable tax cap at some point to generate the same revenue at it, that end point that you may look at, and I looked at a short-term example of 5 years. At some point, you will need to exceed the allowable tax cap. So it just makes you reflect, how is saving today going to impact tomorrow when we could control today and can't control tomorrow? So that's just a little preset into revenue. Now let's go into the non-instructional budget. So the non-instructional, this is a surprise, the suspense, what you're going to see here. The non-instructional budget supports our essential services and operations that keep the district functioning outside of the direct classroom. We have the general support section, which is made up of our foundational costs, such as Board of Ed, a lot of the election costs. Administrative services, the superintendent, the secretary, my office staff, myself, a lot of our professional fees, fiscal fees, lawyer fees, insurance fees, public information. Central services is your day-to-day operations, your buildings and grounds. It's the upkeep of our facilities, as well as BOCES operational services. I often am saying, what is this VoIP stuff? What is this? What is that? That BOCES provides to us, but it's everything that makes the buildings run. And then transportation is pretty self-explanatory. Our drivers, our buses, our costs to get our children to school. So these are the components that are not everyday living in the classroom. So when we look at pure dollars, this is all proposed. There's a big part of the budget that is not released yet, and that's all of BOCES figures. So what we do, they release them in March. I just anticipate what our needs are with a 4 to 5% increase. So that can be adjusted. You can see our proposed figures. This is from last year's adopted budget to this year, and it does look like a substantial increase when you talk about dollars as well as overall percent, especially in the area of central services, which is our buildings. So we're looking at a 100-year-old building, a 67-year-old building over at the elementary school, an existing bus garage. So we do need to invest money just for the upkeep of these buildings. Am I right? 67? 57. Okay. 57 years. So one thing I do want to point out, though, even though it looks like 13% in central services, once the budget is approved, then we often do budget amendments throughout the year when we look at, well, this cost is not really what we needed, or we found something cheaper, or what you planned to occur didn't actually occur. A lot of times that's in staffing. You build in subs, you build in long-term subs for maternity leaves or whatever may occur. And then you see, we didn't need that. So then you could take that money and just reallocate it to a different budget code. Where that goes, 95% of the time is to central services and the building and grounds. So while it looks like last year's budget to this year's proposed budget is a big increase, when you look at the true expenditures, it is a much smaller number. This is just the pie chart. So within the non-instructional budget, just part of the overall budget, you could see the central services, which is the buildings and grounds and facilities, is just about 61% of the total non-instructional budget. Some of the big ticket items that are included in those figures, we've developed an equipment replacement cycle. That was lacking for some time. So we have a cycle to make sure our equipment stays up to par and not everything breaks at once. Included in equipment is certain parts of the building, such as the gymnasium, physical structures. So we've been on a cycle to replace backboards. Last year we did the center court. Now we're finishing the last side. We have some Ventrax, which we use for mowing as well as snow removal. We're looking to continue to add the accessories to those. The elementary school, the walk-in cooler at the elementary cafeteria is on borrowed time. It needs some work, and a new steamer as well. One thing that hit us by surprise this year, probably all of us are feeling this impact, is the electric gas increases. Our electrical budget is way overspent. We've had to definitely transfer money there. So moving forward, we don't anticipate that to change so much. Ironically, though, gasoline has decreased for vehicles. Our building and facility upgrades, we are going to transition our existing bus garage to a building and grounds facility. We're going to focus initially, we're going to break this into phases. We're going to focus on safety concerns. First, to include outdoor lighting. If you've been at a football game and you park there, you could see how dark it actually is. So we do want to invest and get some outdoor lighting. A security fence, a dumpster. We'd like to relocate the dumpsters to the central location. And the facility will serve as a central location for a lot of storage and deliveries. So we're not navigating trucks in the few parking lots we have. The elementary school, we will be replacing, the proposal is to replace the library carpet, which is a big job because when we do that, we paint at the same time and do new ceiling tiles, and looking at replacing the outdoor PA speakers. The high school, we do have a carpet replacement plan, and we have a big one this year, the downstairs, the basement hallway. The Carpet isn't as much money as not knowing what happens when you rip up the existing carpet and if it takes any of the glue and leaves it and they have to sand it, so on and so forth. And continuing with our HVAC replacements little by little up here at the high school. Our daily operational needs. In terms of transportation services, we have had a vehicle replacement plan in effect for quite some time now, and we will be looking to replace a van. I am going to also propose a separate proposition for 2 buses. This is prior to our full EV mandate. So we're looking to procure 2 buses. One is the existing wheelchair bus. It's a microbird, so it's a smaller bus. That is our oldest bus that we have in our quite a few miles. We use that now every single day, a couple times a day, to transport 2 students to their program. So we definitely do want to replace that. In doing so, though, we are looking at keeping this bus because we could then reinstall the seats that were taken out for the wheelchairs and make it a bus for 16 passengers. What we have found is many of our athletic teams or field trips, we have 10 students going. 10 is too many for the vans, but so we're sending a 60-passenger bus for 10 students. It's much more efficient and economical to send a much smaller vehicles. So that is something we will keep. Plus, we will need a backup for wheelchairs in the event one does go down. Also looking to replace one of our existing diesel buses with a gas bus. And lastly, looking at future planning, this will be a second presentation you will have in March. We just completed our building condition survey. It is in the portal to be submitted. So we are looking at, as we are narrowing down our existing transportation facility capital projects, start planning the next one, in addition to our annual projects that we look at as our capital outlays. And that will all tie together to next month's revenue discussion. And then here are our future budget meetings. Are there any questions for me?
I just have just to clarify, Bonnie, the bus that is currently the wheelchair bus, does the district need to purchase seats to put into?
No, they come with the seats when you buy the wheelchair lift, but they're removable, so we have them, and we'll just reinstall them. Other questions?
Anybody else? One thing Bonnie mentioned was the outdoor lighting at the old bus garage, and I don't know if this is in the audit and finance notes, but it was very thoughtful. It wasn't just about how much do they cost. You were very thoughtful. We talked about this at audit and finance. It's in a neighborhood and being mindful of light pollution in terms of the amount of time that those lights are on and also how bright they are. So thank you for that piece of that.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Bonnie, for making
Thank you.
something that could be dry very entertaining. So thank you.
The microphone.
And informational. Next item on the agenda is our elementary update with Mr. Jim Conway, our principal.
I get to be a little later with after those 2 heavy, deep presentations. All right, so a couple of events that just happened recently I wanted to mention because they kind of give a glimpse into what I look at is that whole child instruction that goes on in the classroom, right? I know Mr. Lewis today taught amazing things in his classroom, reading, writing, math, went through all the content, but I also know our kids had other opportunities outside of the classroom. Some of those types of things I'm going to mention tonight because that is a critical piece of what we do at LGS. So Battle the Books. Thank you to all of you that participated in that event. And you got a glimpse into just a wonderful event that Bridget Crossman and the coaches at the elementary school put on. And thank you again. It's not easy to do what you did, those of you that were standing in front and serving as judges or readers or whatever you did. But I'm certainly a bit partial, I've been to these for many years. I share this with the staff. Since they started, I've gone to these events. They used to hold them at Skidmore, and then they would hold them at ACC or SUNY Adirondack. And ours was the best. I can say that. It really was very well run, and hats off to everybody involved. It was great for our kids. And tomorrow morning, they actually are participating in the next round, the virtual event, which that would have been the first event if we hadn't offered what was offered at LGS. Air Band, there's video circulating. We did have a great event, and just thanks again publicly to our PTSO. Yeah, it was SpongeBob. Did you say it or not? But yes, and thanks to Fran and the high school music staff, John Alecci, for running things behind the scenes. There's a lot that goes into that, and Nikki Borey led us at the elementary school. So thankful for her support, allowing someone like myself to find success in a dance routine. VEX tournament. Mr. Luthringer may speak about this in a minute, but again, thank you to John for all of his work, and Megan. They did a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes organizing it. Again, ours is run like no other. We have just the right number of teams. Our parents, the parents that were guests of ours, they all comment on that. They recognize it, but it was because of the organization that took place. And thank you, John, for your work. And Megan, leaving, thank you for your work. All right, sorry. Some other things I want to mention. It's a Winter Olympic year, and when we have the Winter Olympics, our MCI committee always runs. Do you remember the Olympic celebration? Were you guys in elementary? Yeah, all right. So this year, our version of that involves kids throughout the day going to different stations or centers, and some of them are like traditional outdoor play in the snow fun, sledding, that type of thing. But also, the committee is weaving into this day. One of our goals this year is to gain a better understanding of service learning. And there's a lot of volunteerism and opportunities for kids to get involved. And really for our staff, one of the things that I hoped would be one of our goals and we would accomplish, and I think we did, is that understanding of what's different about a service learning opportunity. What our MCI committee has done with that day has woven into that opportunities for kids to learn all about ways that they can serve. So some of the stations involve Habitat for Humanity, Special Olympics, United Way, Rotary, the Waite House, Lake George Association, Warren County Soil and Water, DEC, and ADK. Kids are going to be involved in different activities like making treats and toys for animal shelters, Valentines for nursing homes, postcards for members of Mallory Myers Army Division that are deployed in Kuwait. So different things where they're actually able to take part in one of those stations throughout the day and weaving in an understanding of service learning and volunteerism opportunities for the kids. So I really hats off to that team of teachers and Heather Usher certainly helping to lead that, and Mallory Meyer as well. But it'll be a great day. We will have some fun. The kids will learn a lot as well. March 5th. Oh, and if you're going to be there, 8:15, and I think Heather sent you all something. 8:15 is the opening ceremony. March 5th, just a heads up, our 4th annual career night. Our school counselor, Zoe Chodek, has organized this. And again, that evening, our kids are prepared with questions that they will travel around to different presenters to ask them about their career, which is pretty cool to see a 5-year-old go up and out, looking up at somebody and ask them what they like about their job, why did they get into it, and then seeing that dialogue happen. So again, that's on the 5th from 5 to 7 p.m. And the last thing, kind of ending with what I started with, whole child instruction, right? Developing spirit, mind, and body. Today, if you were a kid in our building, these are some things that happen. 5th grade Writers Club, Bridget Crossman runs a program at lunchtime. 5th and 6th grade kids had Young Scholars today. 3rd grade, there was a math intervention club after school, Mrs. Catarelli. World Language after school program. There was 4th through 6th indoor soccer in the gym. 4th grade band, 5th and 6th grade chorus. And at lunchtime, we had students from FBLA who, with Karen Breslin, came from the high school, and they were sharing information about a club that they're going to be running for our students, and they were pitching that idea today with kids. So I hope if you haven't taken a look at the bulletin lately, just take a peek in there someday and see, because it's amazing. All that we're doing for kids, amazing things in the classroom, amazing things to extend what they're doing, to allow them to find, what is it that I'm passionate about outside the classroom. So that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is our secondary update with Mr. Frank Acosa.
Hi, good evening. So I know Annie and Libby, you're going to take care of the high school event stuff, right? Two quick things. One about the master schedule. Our scheduling committee has made a recommendation to our shared decision-making body for a 53-minute cascading 8-day drop master schedule. So right now it is working its way through our shared decision-making body for feedback. To the students, it may result in longer classes, perhaps like 53 minutes as opposed to 40 minutes, and perhaps an earlier start time. So we're still navigating a final product, which we hope later this spring to be presenting to the Board of Ed. Okay? And then secondly, I know later in the agenda there'll be some resolutions around some significant retirements, them being Bill Elder, Steve Preuss, and of course Jim Conway. So on behalf of Megan, Bonnie, and John, I was designated to speak this evening because Annie and Libby are going to handle the high school stuff. So I'm going to try to turn a little bit this way so he can see me. So later this evening, the Board of Ed will be taking action on Jim Conway's retirement. And it is with mixed emotions that I speak tonight about a colleague and friend, Jim Conway, as he prepares to retire from the Lake George Central Schools after 18 remarkable years as the principal of Lake George Elementary School. Jim and I have walked this journey together since he arrived at LGES, and I've had the privilege of witnessing firsthand his unwavering dedication to our students, staff, and community. Over these 18 years serving alongside of him, I have seen him transform our elementary school into one of the highest performing schools in the greater capital region. Not through mandates or quick fixes, but through genuine care, collaborative leadership, thoughtful goal setting, incremental and sustainable change, a commitment to excellence, and most especially, elevating student voice. What has always struck me the most about Jim is the way he brings his joy to his work, and especially the joy he brings with our students. Students light up when they see him in the hallways. Even years later, when they see him in the high school, in the hallway, they beam and say, "Hello, Mr. Conway." He has made learners, leaders, and global citizens more than just words on a page. They are the living legacy of every student who has passed through LGES during his tenure. Jim has been more than a colleague to me. He has been a trusted partner in a shared mission to serve the Lake George community. Whether we were tackling district-wide challenges, celebrating student and staff achievements, or supporting one another through the inevitable difficulties of educational leadership in a small town, Jim approached every situation with integrity, wisdom, a steady hand, and support that clearly and truly has defined his career. And the past 18 years has supported me, and most especially this community, through so much. Every year, we welcome students to Lake George High School in 7th grade who have spent their formative years with Jim and LGES under their guidance. And the difference is evident. The students arrive here to the high school with academic foundations, curiosity about learning, and the habits and leadership resilience that carry them through the high school challenges. The care and excellence that you have brought to LGES didn't end when your students moved on. It traveled with them, shaping their high school journey in countless ways. It has never been lost on me. A strong elementary school is truly the foundation of a strong high school. One does not exist without the other. The care and love of LGES that my own children have benefited from, the students taught, the teachers you have mentored, Jim, and the culture fostered at LGES have enriched our hallways and classrooms across this entire district immeasurably. Your work has not only made my job easier, but more importantly, has given so many young people the foundation and tools that they need to thrive not only in high school, but beyond. As Jim Conway transitions to his next chapter of a well-earned retirement, Lake George Elementary School stands as a testament to your vision and dedication. He leaves behind a school positioned for continued success and countless students whose lives have been enriched by his leadership. So Jim, on behalf of John and Bonnie and Megan and I can speak, I assume, for the Board of Ed, thank you for your 18 years of partnership, friendship, and service to our Lake George family. You will be deeply missed, but your impact will be felt for generations to come. And of course, congratulations on a well-earned and deserved retirement. We wish you the best, and thank you so much.
Well said. Thank you, Fran. Our next item on the agenda is the student board member update with Annie Fish and Libby Pay.
Hi. I just want to say from a student perspective also, thank you, because I feel so beyond blessed to have grown up only knowing such a wonderful system and people. And you were one of those people, so thank you. Yeah, so we had a planning meeting. I'm also vice president of student council, if you guys didn't know that. But me and the president, Lillian Montville, had a meeting with some staff and Mr. Kukoza the other day to plan some of the Saga City just timeline and stuff like that. So that was super exciting. I'm excited to keep moving forward and planning that because that's such an exciting opportunity. I'm hosting a student for that. I think Annie is as well. We started messaging with them and getting to start relationships with that, so that's super exciting. And just to get to know about culture and that opportunity is really cool.
So some other student things that have been going on. We just had the outhouse races. It was really cold. We had a teacher team and a student team. I'm not sure how they did. I didn't stay that long because I was really cold, but I'm not really sure how they did. Third? Yeah. We also have Drumline is opening for South High Marathon Dance on March 6th. So that should be very exciting. I am part of Drumline, but I won't be able to make it this year. So. We also had our first planning meeting about our school being recognized for the unified sports. So actually at the next March meeting, we'll have YAC, which is Youth Activation Committee. They'll be there to talk about what it is more in depth. And myself and Nevaeh Howe will also be presenting about unified sports.
I'm happy to announce for the Little Mermaid, tickets are officially on sale. You can get those at cure8.com, CUR8.com. We've already sold almost 200 last time I checked, so we're anticipating to sell out at that rate. But So if you guys want to come, get your tickets now. Also, we've started really posting a lot more on social media accounts to promote that, and we've gained quite a bit of traction there. If you guys want to follow us, it's lake.george.drama on Instagram and TikTok. We post some funny videos, some things promoting the show, a lot of theater kid activities there. Yeah, and also we have our World Language Dance coming up. That's going to be run by Spanish Honor Society. That's going to be March 20th, and we're going to be using this space. So that's kind of one of the first student activities in this space other than just meetings. So we're excited to be using this space in a different way. That's going to be songs in 4 languages, if you didn't get that. But I think you all know of Bravo. It's our biannual kind of like air band for the elementary school, but for Spanish and French. But we're gonna do old songs from Bravo and just have a lot of fun and promote world languages. Yeah. And other news, we had emailed the Saratoga student board members, and we got a response.
We did.
So that was really cool to learn what they had to report back to us. And we talked to Janine about that the other day, but Amy was just going to share a little bit.
So we found that some of the similarities that we share with them is that we put together a report for each meeting, so they also do the same thing as us at all their meetings. So for them, they're engaging with the student body by putting a suggestion and question box in their school to strengthen the student voice, which I think is a great idea and something that we could potentially look into. Yeah. And we are still like looking at the email that they responded back to us with because it was a lot. So yeah.
That's all we had.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent report with Mr. John Luthringer.
Thank you, Katie. As Jim mentioned, we've had so many great things going on really at both schools, but the VEX Robotics tournament that we had 2 Saturdays ago was really our second annual Laker Classic, and it went without a hitch. It was a wonderful event. We had 22 teams. We had 3 out of our 4 Lake George teams reach the finals, and this is elementary and middle school students. So we were able to host several local school districts: Hudson Falls, Granville, Glens Falls, Queensbury, and a couple from Guilderland. A couple teams from Guilderland actually came as well. So it was a really great event, and actually Megan and I have been working closely regionally, and there's another event at Hudson Falls this Saturday, which we're helping support. So we're inspiring other school districts to take on a tournament event to help kind of bring robotics to other schools. So it's a real, as you know, it's a real passion of mine. So I just think about just those wonderful opportunities that we can provide our kids, and it was just a great day. The winter athletics season is really entering kind of the final stretch. There's a basketball game tonight, so thank you to the board for flexibility and moving up our meeting. So we have a lot of great things, but just a couple things this week. We'll be doing a send-off for students that have started to qualify for the state championships. So Chloe Brown qualified in downhill this week. And then today, which was really great to watch, our Nordic team, so Jason and Simon Ludlow also finished in the top 12, which qualifies them for the state tournament, which will be held in Bristol Mountain, actually the same mountain that I skied at when I was a kid. So not good skiing, but I did ski there. So that's really exciting as well, and there'll be more to come. We've got basketball seasons winding down, wrestling as well. So we look forward to celebrating the rest of the winter season. We have a couple of things coming up as well. So we've been working hard, as I've mentioned last year, on our regional student summit. I'm part of a committee that works on bringing events for building student community, culture, climate, an opportunity for students to experience a sense of belonging and work and meet with other students from other districts. So that is occurring on March 5th. Really excited that it's going to be held in Lake George at the Fort William Henry. I've been working closely with the fort. They've been a great partner. It's going to be actually at the Carriage House. We are hoping to have all 31 school districts participate this year. We already have more schools signed up than last year, and we've increased capacity for students. So Lake George will be sending 5 students, possibly more, depending if there's more seats. So we are capped at about 175 students. It'll be facilitated by a local group, along with some superintendents. The group's called Educate to Empower. And it's going to be a really great day. It's going to be a great lunch. There'll be great opportunities for student collaboration, to learn from each other, experiences that they're having in their schools, and there'll be opportunity for debriefing and things to come back to the school district as well. Chris Mondella will be overseeing that with our students as part of him leading the anti-bullying group and also as dean of students. So he's really excited about this opportunity, and we're excited to send our students to collaborate with others. On March 9th, we have our staff conference day as well, so that's coming up. It'll actually be the first full staff gathering in the Laker Hub, so we'll have everybody here working on opportunities to continue our MTSS work, so our multi-tiered system of support, continuing along the work that we've started in the fall. We'll also, as you heard earlier today, we'll be doing some training and professional development on the STEPS plan, and then there'll be specific curriculum work done in both buildings, along with planning for professional development in the high school for longer instructional blocks of time for educators. And the last thing I just want to mention also is just a big kind of shout out and thank you to our building and ground staff. We, as you all know, we're experiencing one of the harshest winters that we've had in quite some time. It has been incredibly cold, many, many days below zero for the duration of the day when you start to factor in wind chill. And it's a nonstop job keeping our buildings heated. And you've probably seen across the capital region many schools struggling with that. Schools that have had to delay, close because boilers aren't working. And you know, I just want to thank Kevin and his team, because their priority is to ensure that our kids are able to come to school and learn every day. And they have done an outstanding job. It has been a very difficult job. We've had a lot of snow, the plowing, the constant attention outside, but also in our buildings, keeping our boilers working in good working order. So I just want to give them a thank you as well. Any questions on anything?
Thank you, John, and thank you for highlighting that piece from our, the sidewalks are also exceptional. When anytime I'm coming in the building, I'm always happy I'm not feeling like I'm going to slip and fall. So that's awesome. The next section, we have a few committee reports coming up. The first one of those is Audit and Finance Committee report with Mario Fasulo, who chairs that committee.
Thanks, Katie. I just want to say something about the buildings and grounds, the Battle of the Books. I think it's that culture piece of we're going to go above and beyond. We're going to do that extra. The Battle of the Books was a lot of fun. The coaches from the other schools really appreciated the teachers that put it together. They didn't have to, but they chose to. And just like the VEX robotics, we didn't have to, but the school chooses to. And so when one department steps up, another department sees them working hard. I think it's just a great culture piece, but it's wonderful. We went over the treasurer's report for December. There was a partial out-of-district tuition payment in the amount of $39,801. We received that on behalf of a student that resides outside the district, with the student's home district covering the cost of their participation in our Life Skills Pathway to Independence program, which Kate Kelly leads. Likewise, we also have enrolled another out-of-district student that just came in. His home district will be paying that tuition as well. Although the tuition revenue helps offset the program cost, the inclusion of these students also provides a significant social benefit that further enhances the program and helps impact the students. So it's a great program that other schools are trying to get involved in. We also discussed the interest revenue for December, which was lower than we had talked about that. But two of our 3-month CDs will be maturing soon. No, they matured at the end of January. So we'll see the increase at the February meeting for the January report. The claims audit report was reviewed. There was really nothing noteworthy on there. That is item D on the consent agenda. you guys, everybody saw the Bonnie's report. She gave us an outline. Bonnie, I also love spreadsheets. I'm with you. It was great that she thought about putting revenue into every presentation. I've heard horror stories of other schools that did not try to go up to the tax cap, and then they get to a point where they're so far behind. It really creates that budget year would create a major distraction for that school, which it is happening to a school nearby. So I think it just also emphasizes the business department, the business office, and the work they do, and what goes into the budget that they put together. So I thought it was great. We also reviewed the RFPs, which are requests for proposal scheduled for the year. It has two in there, one for UPK, Universal Pre-K, and the banking service RFP. That typically is on a 3-year cycle. The UPK RFP right now is open, while the banking RFP is scheduled to be issued later in the spring. We'll reevaluate the banking proposals. Like last time, we did change banks 3 years ago when the RFP was fulfilled, because it was not just cost savings, but it was also more effective and efficient for the school. We had reduced fees and better features, so we will look to see what comes in on the banking RFP. And then the State Comptroller's Office does a fiscal stress and environmental report for 2025, and it assesses financial and environmental aspects of the school. And the district received the highest rating of 0 points in all the categories, indicating no designation of fiscal or environmental stress, which, yes, you would expect, but it's also great to see all the work that the school does really adds up, and the state recognized that. And that was it.
Thanks, Mario. I just wanted to clarify, the Universal Pre-K RFP, is that referring to specifically to the location, the space? Is that what that is?
Yeah, so each year, we're required by New York State to put out a request for proposal for collaboration in the community with community-based organizations. So that means we have to, it's mainly regarding space. So many school districts have limited space, so they have to partner with an agency in the community to provide that same program in that other organization's space. So we're required to do that each year to see if anyone would be wanting to partner with us. It's a pretty detailed process, and any school or any organization that would want to do that would have to meet the requirements of the proposal. We have not, the last 2 years, we have not had any applicants, and that closes, and it closes next week.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Mario.
Quickly, if we didn't do that, they would hold 10% of our funding for that program.
Thank you. The next committee report is the Buildings and Grounds Committee report. Janine Bieber is the chair of that committee and will give us that report.
Okay, so we had our last Buildings and Grounds meeting on January 13th, and along with our usual board members and administrators and business official, we had both Chris Schmidt and Sean O'Brien from Tetra Tech that joined us during that meeting. The bulk of the meeting focused on our business conditions survey and the information that we've drawn from that as a district. But we did start off with a bus garage update and our existing bus garage update also. So I will say that Bonnie has a great presentation that's linked to the minutes, and the presentation has some wonderful pictures of our new transportation facility. And I think, well, also probably in Thursday themes, there's always pictures linked too. So, but it's really exciting because basically the project still remains on schedule for completion in late May, with the occupancy anticipated for July 2026. So it's, wow, it's coming right around the corner. The building is weather tight. They're working on interior framing and finish work. We reviewed the project budget. And also, it's noted that the costs remain below the original projected budget so far. So, let's see. Oh, also, we're still looking at, or waiting for plans from Tetra Tech with respect to designing the pedestrian pathway that will allow residents to safely access the track from the facility. So, we discussed a bit what was going to be happening with our existing bus garage, which will become our buildings and grounds maintenance facility. And Bonnie talked about actually the plans with that building in her report tonight, so I won't repeat that. Like I said, the bulk of our time together we spent discussing the building condition survey, and that is the survey that has to be done every 5 years. And just as a reminder, I'll just read this right from the minutes. The building condition survey consists of a comprehensive mandated visual inspection of district facilities to assess overall physical condition, identify deficiencies, determine repair and replacement needs, ensure code compliance, and support long-term capital planning, to protect the health, safety, and welfare of students and staff. So Tetra Tech presented the results of the survey. And what they did was they also created, and I know Superintendent Lutheringer already linked this for us, but they created a wonderful summary chart, which was so helpful in understanding what we're looking at from really for a span of time going through 10 years in terms of everything identified with our district, but then also broke out what was discussed with our administrators in terms of where the focuses have to be or where the focuses should be for our district, because obviously we wouldn't be able to tackle everything on this survey. So I just, I really want to commend Tetra Tech for the work that they did, taking the information from our administrative team and putting together just a comprehensive report that also helped me, someone with no background with this information whatsoever, really be able to paint a picture and see where we're headed as a district with that. So it's really interesting. It's interesting. Take a look at it. Other than that, let's see, I just want to, so based on the review, though, I will say that the priority areas that were identified in the high school, specifically the auditorium and the gymnasium, in the elementary school, the little theater, the playground, also district boilers, gymnasium spaces, along with the district-wide need for looking at our fire alarm system and a replacement for that. So it was a very informative meeting, and it was great to see everything just unfold with that plan. So that's it.
Thank you, Janine. The last committee report is the policy committee report. Mary Ann McKenzie chairs that committee and will give us that report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this evening we have 4 policies moving forward to second read, and each of those is listed this evening. Each was discussed at last month's board meeting. In addition to that, since last month, the policy committee has reviewed 8 policies electronically. Each of those policies came before us as part of our routine policy manual review. 3 of them were reviewed with no suggested changes, and those include 1530 minutes, 2320 attendance by board members at conferences, conventions, and workshops, and 2330 compensation and expenses. And then the remaining 5 policies are all being recommended for for first read this evening, so I'll go through those in a more detailed way now. So the first one, Policy 1510, regular board meetings and rules, quorum and parliamentary procedure. There was a lot of back and forth on this policy and several suggestions. A couple suggested revisions just simply to improve the clarity of the language. Is there a suggested, under public comment, there were two suggestions. One of them was a revision, suggested revision to indicate that during the second public comment session of our board meetings, a speaker, well, let me back up for a second. In our first public comment section is reserved for topics that are on the board meeting agenda. The second one is reserved for other topics, other district topics. And we made a revision just to indicate that you can also still bring up topics that are on the agenda during that second public comment session, as well as any other district-related topic. Also under public comment, in that section, based on committee input and research on practices used in other school districts, we're recommending an increase in the public comment time frame. Currently, in the manual, it's listed as 15 minutes of public comment allowed for each session, 1 and 2. And we're suggesting to increase that time frame to 30 minutes for each section, really to reflect, we want to be generous with public comment and have that time available should we need it. And recognizing that the board president has the discretion to adjust those parameters based on district need during board meetings as well. And let's see. Oh, yes, there was also in the same policy, this is a long policy with a lot of different categories in it. Also in this policy is a section on video conferencing board meetings during conditions called extraordinary circumstances. And there was just a suggested revision in this policy in that section under letter C, directing readers to letter E to find the procedures and protocols that we use when we're using video conferencing during extraordinary circumstances. It's just like a technical shift, just so that people understand where to find those protocols. Those protocols are also, you can find those linked on the website as well. So members of the public will, if they have any questions about it, they can find those procedures. And in addition, we're suggesting that we added a reference at the end of the policy to identify the resolution that the board passed pertaining to extraordinary circumstances. And I forget exactly if it was in 2022. It was a few years back. But there's a reference to that resolution, which was part of the legal requirement for this. Okay, moving on to Policy 2110. There was, yes, this was orienting and training board members policy, and there was one suggested revision under letter F to revise the language to clarify that for new board members, there will be an opportunity offered for fulfilling our governance and fiduciary training requirements through, orientation programs such as NYSBA's program, BOCES program, or a comparable orientation program, just to clarify that language there. I'm going to skip one for now. 2340 is the board self-evaluation policy. It was just one very wordsmithing suggestion there, literally one word from shall to will, just to update the language where we can. 3110 is media, municipal governments, senior citizens. And there was one suggested revision in this policy to make the language more contemporary with our current practices, specifically our school calendar is no longer sent out on a monthly basis. It's sent out, the hard copy is sent out annually to district residents rather than in a monthly mailing. And is to speak to the newsletter that gets sent out periodically, which contains relevant information about district activities and other items of interest. So that's just updating those pieces. And then I think the last one to discuss is policy 2210, which is committees of the board. And this review started with a couple of suggestions and ultimately led to a complete rewrite. The policy on the committees of the board that's currently in the manual is really, technically correct, and it contains like legal requirements, expectations, but the policy overall, the way it exists in the manual it appears, limited. It doesn't really tell the full story about our committee processes or even in a thorough way. And our board has worked very hard over the last several years to learn and understand our roles in relation to our committee work, and seemed that we could do better by rewriting to reflect our understanding and also to better serve the reader. So whether whoever is interested in what committees of the board means, what it looks like, but for our board members, for now and into the future. I know when I first came on the board, I went looking for this policy and I read it, and okay, that was my starting point, but we have so much more to say. And this process of putting this rewrite together was really wonderful. Multiple perspectives from the committee members were folded in. Excellent questions were asked, researched, answered, in consultation with our NYSBA legal services and our district attorney. And basically it includes, what are our board committees? Why do we have board committees? What is our philosophical approach to board committees? It includes the legal expectations. It includes best practices, and hopefully makes a picture of what it is and makes sense. So anyway, the process was really satisfying for this collaborative experience, and the growth that we had just through this little process. And anyway, we hope you like it too. So that's it. That's my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Mary Ann, for
Okay.
explaining that, because our committee work really is foundational to the work we do, and as you hear the reports that we have every month. So thank you to everybody for your work on that, and thank you for explaining that, Mary Ann. The next piece is our first of the two public comment periods, and Sarah's indicating that no one signed up for public comment. If anyone didn't get a chance to sign up and would like to speak, they're always welcome. We have that sign-up sheet to be organized and to be able to respond to folks. If anybody is tuned in remotely, you can send an email to the board at boe@lkgeorge.org. The board and the superintendent will see that and will respond to your questions or comments as soon as we can. So having no public comments, we will move on to the school business consent agenda. And I'll turn that over to you, John.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the school business consent agenda items A through F. To summarize, item A is the minutes from the last board meeting on January 13th. Item B is the recommendations from February for the Committee on Special Education. Items C and D refer to the Treasurer's and Claims Auditor's report. Item E is the motion for the policies moving to second read. Item F is a motion to approve the Junior Honor Society field trip request to Lake Placid on or about May 7th through the 8th.
Do we have a motion? Do you have any questions, comments, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposing? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the Lake George Staff Association contract.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby ratifies the professional agreement between the Lake George Central School District and the Lake George Staff Association covering the period from July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2029.
So moved.
Have any questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Next is the faculty staff recognition section, and the first of those items is faculty staff resignations.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the resignation of Joseph Kane as groundskeeper cleaner in the non-competitive class of civil service effective January 23rd, 2026.
So moved.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item is faculty staff resignation in the retirement category.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby accepts for the purposes of retirement the resignation of the following employees and their respective effective dates: Bill Elder, Steve Preuss, and Jim Conway.
Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. So thank you to Mr. Elder, Mr. Preuss, and Fran, thank you so much for your wonderful words for Mr. Conway. It was very well said, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. Conway. The next item on the agenda is the faculty staff appointments.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff consent agenda items A through B. Item A is a motion to approve the appointment of Maddie Brazel to a 4-year probationary appointment as a business education teacher, as presented. Item B is a motion to amend the 25-26 substitute list of employees.
Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries.
And thank you. Yes, we do have Maddie joining us. Appreciate the reminder. So Matt, can you pull Maddie up on the screen? No, she's not on. She doesn't have her camera on. Okay. Well, we're excited for Maddie, and she is on, so she's joining us, and we're really excited to have her. She is a Lake George graduate, as you know, and we're appreciative of her being on the meeting tonight.
Welcome, Maddie.
Yes, congratulations.
Thanks for attending virtually. We
Ooh,
appreciate it.
Is this our first? Is this our first hire where we have to change APPR to steps in our description?
So,
Or no, not yet, we can't.
well, yeah, the plan has to be approved by the board, so technically, but she would be under the new steps plan starting in September.
Nice. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Board of Education comments and discussion. Does anybody have any items?
Did I get added here?
Category?
I'm on. I just wanted to thank our student board members for hosting Saga City Student. I've hosted twice, once a teacher and once a student. I know they're very nervous, and it's nice of you to step out of your comfort zone and open up your home, and it'll be hopefully a great experience because the culture is so very different than ours, and it's a great learning experience for all of our students. So I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. And we'll have a meeting tomorrow, right? Yep.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Rosemary. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. The next item on the agenda is a proposed executive session. Oh, sorry, second public comment. Thank you, guys. Second public comment period. And Sarah, you indicated no one signed up for that. Okay. So having no one for our second public comment period, and thanks again for keeping me on track, guys, is the proposed executive session. The Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District proposes entering into an executive session for discussion on the Board of Education, discussion of the Board of Education self-evaluation and pending litigation. Any questions, discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Oh, me too. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And what's my thing, Jeff?
We do not anticipate taking any action after the executive session.
We do not anticipate taking any action after the executive session. Thank you.